Welcome to the Transformers Breakdown, and this is episode 20 in season 2, Desertion of the Dinobots, part 2. In the last episode, the Autobots and the Decepticons needed this thing called Cybertronium. The Dinobots decided to leave the Autobots, but then they decided to come back and help them, and then they somehow ended up in Cybertron, and then they didn't want to come back, so they sent Carly and Spike in order to get them, and as Carly and Spike were going up there, Shockwave was going to kill them because he knew they were coming. So that's how the episode ended. The previous episode, this episode, Carly and Spike end up going there. They end up finding Swoop. They go through this whole adventure. They end up saving the Dinobots. The Dinobots go back to get the Cybertronium. They go back to Earth. They save the Autobots, and everybody's happy. So let's get started. So, it's, this whole, so in the last episode I was talking about how Shockwave had a mini Shockwave. Well, as the episode starts, he does not. And then he shoots Carly's car, and Carly's car vanishes, which I previously talked about how they should have made Carly's car into like an Autobot, but I guess that's not going to happen anymore. And then Shockwave starts destroying his own lab. He's like just starts just shooting his own lab in order to get these kids that are running around. And then Spike gets away, and Carly gets away, and they have this. Oh, Spike was sent up there with a thumb radio, like a thing that goes in his thumb, like a thumb radio. What about an iPhone? you know. I'm pretty sure the technology should have been invented by now. So, and then, what's his name? Spike and Carly are calling their dad in Cybertron in Earth, and they're communicating with them. And you see this diamond image, and I'm thinking to myself, are Spike and Carly like in Diamond World, or did they meet up with Superman at some point in time? I'm not quite sure. But no, you realize that it's like a hologram or some kind of thing that the computer is making of them. So, and then I guess there's oxygen in Cybertron because they can breathe. I am not quite sure whether in the later seasons there actually is oxygen in Cybertron, and I think there in some episodes there is, and in some episodes there isn't, so that's kind of interesting. And then they get to Wheeljack's lab, and Wheeljack's lab has a giant Decepticon logo right at the top. Now the theory is the Decepticons might have taken it over and then put the logo on it, but then I'm thinking to myself, Carly just starts pressing buttons and opens the doorway, and it's like, okay, Carly knows a lot about Autobots. It's almost like she is like the maker of Autobots. And how does she know the code to the lab? It's like, seriously. And then, so Carly previously had sprained her ankle, so she was like limping around, and then Spike had to carry her. There's a whole romantic episode, I think, like, it's in order to tie in, like, to build up the romance of it. And then she's all like, oh no, it's healed. And it's like 10 minutes have not gone by. So are you like related to Wolverine, or I'm not quite sure. There's a very cool tunnel system in this episode. It's like they're all like whoosh, 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 everywhere. So it's like, wow, okay. And then Cybertron's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's like traps with like pendulums and like walls that try to smash them together. It's like, what about lasers? I don't know. I mean, this is like a robot world. You would think that a pendulum would be kind of a little outdated. And then how does Carly know how to work all these computers in Cybertron? Like, this is totally like, I mean, I'm all for feminist movement, and I'm all for like women being empowered, but there's a certain level of reality that needs to be addressed, because Carly knows how to fix Autobots. She knows how to like fix the computers, and she knows the codes to Cybertron. She knows everything. And then when she's talking, because I talked about this because she knows how to access the computers, right? So they're talking about the history of Cybertron and how there's been this war forever and ever, and they talked about how Autobots fled Cybertron. Now this is really important in the later in the Transformer fictional world, because you realize that the Autobots are not the only ones that fled Cybertron. So there's a whole different other factions of Autobots around the world, around the cosmos, not around the world, but you know what I mean. So then Carly to the rescue again. she realizes what's wrong with the Dinobots, and in order to she fixes them. And then Swoop loses his whole wing. Poor Swoop, he got like a little cut by the pendulum thing, and then later he loses half of his wings. But they don't address this later. Like he all of a sudden ends up there, and it's like, okay. The pyramids are portals. There's a whole secret about pyramids being portals. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So some of you know this, some of you don't. But Illuminati people, I know you know. And then at this episode is when Optimus makes them honorary Autobots. Now Spike has been with the Autobots from day one, right? He has been helping them, he's been rescuing them, putting his life out on the limb. And just now in season 2, episode 20, does he get a badge? Okay. And then who's the guy in the bed? Who's the guy in the bed? Like, there's a shot where all the Autobots are there, and who's the guy in the bed? I'm thinking now it's Swoop. He's like red and blue, and like I'm thinking now that it's Swoop that he's getting fixed. But who's the guy in the bed? So that's the episode. Nothing really exciting, you know. No little big glitches on there. But did you find any? Let me know. And do you love this episode? Do you hate this episode? Interesting episode, and about the whole romance element. They're building stories on top in order to build the world later. So I love Transformers until all are one. Bye.